Hello and welcome back to the Will Pritchard Show. This is the show that is all about communication in relationship. My desire, my heart is to help anybody, to help you communicate well, effectively, so that your relationship, whatever relationship that you're in, can flourish. As Dr. John Cottonman once wrote, and he said, the quality of our relationships determine the quality of our life. The success of my life came because there were some good relationships along the way in my journey. You see, relationship is a gift that is given to us by God. It's given to the human race by God because that's who God is. God exists in a context of a relationship, the relationship between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So there's communication, there is unity, there is relationship that is going on within the community of the Trinity, and that life, in a sense, is given to us in order to enjoy. That's why I believe all relationships are unique, because it is driven by the divine life of God the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. When it's done well, when relationships are done well, built well, when the selfishness and the pride and all that is taken away from our relationship, it is a beautiful thing. It builds individuals, it develops individuals, and also brings success to all of our lives. Let's go into our court case for today, and we're looking at a court case between Mr. Stewart and Mrs. Langley, and I'm going to apply 4 communication theory into this case. I've seen it, I watched it through, and picked out 4 communication theory that is relevant to the case, but more so relevant to our relationships.
Mr. Stewart says he wants to get married, but his fiancée says it's just a piece of paper. Now he's giving her an ultimatum. Today on Divorce Court.
All rise. The Honorable Judge Starr presiding.
You may be seated. Mr. Stewart, Miss Langley, thank you very much for joining me today. Mr. Stewart and Miss Langley, you've been together for 3 years. You've lived together for 1.5 years. You just purchased a home together, engaged for 1 year, and your anniversary is coming up. So, although you have no children together, this house has become like your child. Everybody has some stakes in the ground. Why don't you tell me, Mr. Stewart, what brings us to divorce court today?
So the house, as we get on to the case, has become the centerpiece, or has been the thing that really brought out what their motives are really and what they want in this relationship.
Your Honor, I'm here today because I'm giving my fiancée, Sam, an ultimatum.
Okay.
She needs to step up and get ready to get married. We need to address some flaws in her characteristics, or we're putting the house back on the market. She is inconsiderate, she is irresponsible, and there are a lot of things that she does that's just an absolute deal breaker in my case.
Ms. Langley, what do you say?
Your Honor, I'm here to save our relationship because, we can work this out, and I have put my life savings into this house. I'm not moving anywhere, and, we don't need a piece of paper to validate our love.
Well, you needed a piece of paper to validate the house, okay? It's funny how y'all put the cart before the horse. Mr. Stewart, take me back to how you all first met. What made you get together?
Well, Your Honor, we met about 5 years ago. We went on a date to an ice skating rink. I thought things were going great, so I just let the night proceed. I reached out to her for a second date. She wasn't interested, so we went our separate ways.
Interesting.
2 years later, we met on a different dating website. Turns out this time we have a lot more in common. We're both nerds. We love playing D&D. We like going on adventures.
What's D&D?
It's Dungeons and Dragons, Your Honor.
Love watching that game, that reality show of Amazing Race, the international one, the American-based one, where American contestants go and race around the world doing all these activities. We love it because we've been to most of the countries that they've been to. and we think we can do it. Yeah, that we love watching that reality show or any reality show that has to do with competition while you're traveling. So that's our activity in the evenings.
Oh, I got you. D&D works for me. Okay.
We love playing D&D, we love going on adventures, we love watching anime together, and we love going to character conventions.
Do you dress up?
She dresses up. She tries to get me to dress up. I'm a little more hesitant about it. I just like to go and watch.
Okay. So you do have things
That's
in
too
common.
much for me.
We have a lot of things in common.
You fell in love pretty quickly, as my notes say.
It was very fast. You know, I knew that I wanted to make her my wife by like the end of the 4th date.
But that was after a 2-year hiatus, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we didn't realize who we were whenever we went on that second date. We had forgotten about each other, and we didn't realize we had been on a date before. So then we ended up going on another date, and we didn't realize.
If you're using social media to date people, you got to do what my friends, my wife and I's friends, told us that they did. They did online dating. They're now married. They're happy. But they had to keep records and the nature of the conversation. In fact, they get files of people that they went out. And it's not the traditional sense of dating. This is getting together, finding out. It's more fact-finding what that person's interests are, what they're good at, what they're not so good at. Are they, are they happy people, sad people, whoever they are. So it's fact-finding. And what you do is you keep records in case you end up coming around and dating that same individual again, so that you won't have the same conversation that you have. This couple definitely didn't do that.
It was the same people until like 4 dates in.
Okay, Miss Langley, not to put too fine a point on it, but was he that not memorable that you can't remember that you went on a
He
date
didn't
with him?
remember me either, so neither one of us remembered it. At the time, I was just dating for fun. I had like 4 or 5 dates a week. If I made it to the 3rd date, then I might learn their name, but beside that, no.
So I'm interested.
4 or 5 date doesn't mean the traditional type of dating. See, my wife and I dated before social media came to be. I know that's hard to believe. My sons find that hard to believe. But when dating without the usage of social media, you take it a lot more serious because you're talking to people face to face rather than communicating online. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with dating online, but that's not the same as dating physically, where you meet somebody at church or you meet somebody at a restaurant and you ask them out and you go out and you keep that date until things don't work out. Here, you can go and have lunch, you can go have dinner, you can meet up with somebody with coffee, and you call that a date.
Figuring out what she needed to make it work, to us getting to a point where you say there's some deal breakers and we're in divorce court.
Well, Your Honor, everything kind of changed when we finally bought the house and started moving in together.
Why did you buy this house?
That's a good question.
Your Honor, it's always been one thing that I wanted. I came from a very traditional family. My parents were married, they had a house, we had a place to live, we called it a home. There were so many memories built there, and that's something that I wanted not only for myself. We did discuss marriage, Your Honor. We discussed that we would like to get married in the future. However, we made it clear that kids were off the table, as neither of us were quite interested in that.
Okay, so you had real discussions about what you wanted your relationship to be. Did you talk about a timeline when it came to marriage?
We did not talk about timeline when it came to marriage, but we did discuss like what kind of vendor we would want. I'm more of a traditionalist. I wanted something, nice, something a little.
He won't let me have the wedding that I want.
And Your Honor, as she mentioned, she does not. Her ideal wedding is going to be in a bowling alley or an arcade, which makes me think that she thinks the entire concept of marriage is nothing but a game.
Listen to what he said. He's raised in a traditional family, raised in the home, had a great childhood growing up. I'm asking the question, why is he with her? Blaming her for anything. I'm just saying, is Miss Langley the person that's going to be traditional with you? If you're not compatible in your upbringing, you're going to push your lifestyle on the other one so that you can feel comfortable.
You told her that it didn't matter where you got married, that you wanted to ultimately be married. Is that what you said?
I told her that I wanted to get married and that we would pick out a place that was suitable for the both of us.
Oh, it sounds like you parsed your words.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I want someplace that's fun because neither one of our families really dance, right? So, we wanted to, have someplace that was fun, that was active, and, I just really see it as a piece of paper. It's not important, like, it's not a big thing to make a big deal out of. It's a piece of paper, and he wants me to wear a ring, and I will not keep up with a ring. Like, I will lose that ring if he gives it to me.
There's a reason why you all didn't have that second date initially. Because y'all don't have the same concept of what you want. And there's nothing wrong with what either one of you want. Mr. Stewart, you came to court today in a tie.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Langley, you came to court in a unicorn dress.
It's what I wear to work.
By the way, I love a unicorn dress, okay? That's not a problem. But the point is, are you able to be compatible with each other?
That's a really good question. Now, let me get to some communication theory here. There's two that stands out as we listen into the connection and the communication that's going on with Mr. Stewart and Mrs. Langley. Now, the first theory that comes to mind is the theory called the social exchange theory. Now, this theory suggests that relationships are maintained and based on the perceived benefits which outweighing the costs. The benefit is the focus without thinking too much about the costs. If you're going to aim for something, as scripture says, you always got to count the cost. The cost emotionally, the cost physically, the cost financially, the cost spiritually, the cost and the costs relationally. See, both of these, Mr. Stewart and Miss Langley, are assessing what they gain and lose in a relationship, with the house becoming a tangible representation of this investment. The biblical principle that aligns with and transcends social exchange theory is sacrificial love, as described in Philippians 2 in verses 3 and 4. It says, do nothing out of selfish ambitions or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, unlike this couple, but each of you to the interests of the others. While social exchange theory emphasizes a balance of reward and goals, this principle introduces the idea of selflessness and sacrificial love. Instead of focusing solely on personal benefits, Christians are called to prioritize the well-being and needs of others, even at the personal cost. This aligns with what Jesus' motto of love revealed in John 15:13, where it states, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. It's the expectation. The other theory is the expectancy violation theory. Expectancy violation theory. The explanation of this theory is where people have expectations in relationship. Every relationships have expectations, and when these expectations are violated, it leads to the conflict of resolution. It's not a problem to have expectation. It is a problem when you don't communicate those expectations. So what happens when somebody violates their expectations? Well, from a Christian perspective, when someone fails to meet our expectation, we should respond like God does with us when we don't meet God's expectation. How does He respond to us? Well, He does this. He responds to us with grace, patience, and absolute forgiveness. Just as Ephesians 4, verse 32 says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ, God, forgave you. So instead of focusing on the failure, we focus on restoration, showing love and build relationship rather than breaking them down. Expectation is one thing, but the life and the longevity of your relationship is important to keep in mind.
Mr. Stewart, so clearly you had different ideas of marriage. I'm going to say 100%, so you know my bias walking in the door, Miss Langley. A lot of people treat it as a piece of paper. I treat it as a foundation for building something solid and long-standing. I love my husband more than I love air. I'm telling you. I feel so good and safe with him. He takes good care of me. What do you love about Mr. Stewart?
I mean, I love the fact that he has kind of that stable aspect because, you know, I lose things and I'm not the most stable person in the world. So sometimes
You're not the most
stable person in the world.
But he's...
Did you just hear what she said about what she loves about him? And the more I listen to her, the more sad I feel for her. Her love is based on what he can do. So he keeps her stable. He finds things for her. As long as he can do that for her, then he's a good guy. Nothing that she has said has to do with he's a patient person. He loves me. I love him for who he is, his character, his value, his upbringing, his gifts, and all of that. Very sad. Let's listen.
Still loves you.
Your Honor,
But he
she
draws me
loses
back in sometimes and I need that.
She loses everything. I keep up with her keys, I keep up with her phone, I keep up with her purse.
I
The
keep up
moment
of
she
where we're
sets
going.
something down, it doesn't exist.
But Mr. Stewart, why do you love her?
I love so many things about her. She's adventurous. She's a little wild. She drives me crazy with a single look. She's the type of person that when I come home, my first thought is I get to spend time with her.
Nice.
That may be the single nicest thing I've heard in divorce court. Very
Boring.
few people, I beg your pardon?
It's boring. Like, I want to go out and have fun and excitement. You know?
You hear this, Your Honor? She wants to go out and have fun and
First time
excitement.
this year.
Spin it, Your Honor.
You get
Spin
to
it.
spin.
Yes.
Did you just say that's boring?
Yes.
You lucky. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. If I knew a nice girl that enjoyed anime and D&D, I would introduce her to Mr. Stewart because this is a nice man right here.
Yeah.
He's very nice.
Okay, but
sometimes
why
I
would
need
you
some
insult him?
spice.
Excuse me. Why would you insult him in front of people and say he's boring?
Yeah.
This is a man who has proclaimed his love and said the very
Yes.
first thing he thinks about is spending time with you. That's the kindest, sexiest, most wonderful thing that a partner can say about
She's
another
not mature.
partner.
She's not
I don't want to
mature.
be with anybody else. I
Emotionally.
just want to be with my partner. That's what the man just
No,
said. And you
it's-
couldn't even shut up for being whimsical for 2 minutes
Tell her.
and acknowledge
Tell her,
what the
Judge.
brother just said.
Tell her.
Okay? And you wonder why you in divorce court. Acknowledge what the brother just said.
I do appreciate it. I do. But, you know,
Really?
to me, love should be something passionate and exciting and fun. And, you know, I know that he's saying that he kind of bought the house and he put the main down, but I bought everything in the house. So I bought the refrigerator, I bought the furniture.
It's all about me. You know, if you're dating somebody, if you're in a relationship, not just about dating, but friendship and so forth. If you are in a relationship and you listen to how that person is speaking, and the center of that communication is them, their need, their desire, run. Run as fast as you can, because they will never, people like this will never value who you are as a person until they grow out of whatever they're in. Run as fast as I'm saying. Mr. Langley, I've been a pastor for many years, and I've talked to couples pre-marriage, after marriage, broken marriage, dating. I can tell you, I can hear it right away, and I'm not afraid. Was not afraid to tell people, don't marry because until you deal with this issue. This is what I would say to Mr. Langley. Hey, don't take that bridge, don't take that walk of marriage until she either grows up or whatever. Let's listen.
Furniture, I bought everything else that, I don't even get credit for because it's not the house.
Your Honor, she may have bought everything inside of the house, but that's about as far as it goes. When I come home every day, things are excluded. She doesn't live up to what we would consider wifely duties.
Oh, no, I try to live up to wifely duties.
I come home, all the cabinets are open, the house doesn't look like it's been taken care of at all. There's not even food being prepared.
Miss Langley, Mr. Stewart, this is a bias that this judge is going to say to you. You can't expect wifely duties from a girlfriend.
Ooh. Yes. The expectations are so far apart. Judge said it right. Good on you, Judge. You cannot expect wifely duty from somebody who's not a wife. Whew, I love that. Love that.
She's not your wife. You need to consider whether or not she's going to be your wife. Langley, you say that the marriage is only a piece of paper, but the paper that you all signed combined a financial obligation.
Right.
Okay? So he may have put down the down payment, as I understand, about $20,000.
$20,000 on a $300,000 house, Your Honor.
Okay.
Wow.
I know that you put in time, toil, effort, decorations, so pretty much the equivalent, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I mean,
in terms of what's inside the house. Is that fair,
Correct.
Mr. Stewart?
That is fair.
So it's really the house together that you all have built.
Oh, no, it is, but he's even accusing me of ruining the house, and it's been like a whole thing. We have white walls. I'm sorry, but white walls are boring, right? So
No.
I'm going to submit
Again, with
into
the boring-
evidence this picture of our basement that
Yes,
I
ma'am.
did, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So me and my friend, we went through
Okay.
and we painted up the castle, we painted the walls.
That's kind
I
of
like
cute.
that.
Everything, yeah, I love
I think
it,
it's
right?
really cute.
So I went to him and I was
Okay.
like, hey, I really want to paint downstairs. I asked him, hey, can you look at this color? And he told me, yeah, the color was down there. I got done and he told me that the wall looks like baby diarrhea and
come
that, it's so ugly and he doesn't even want to spend any time down
Come
there.
on,
after
Mr.
that.
Langley.
It almost looks like the dragons from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, right. It's cute, right?
I think that is really
He called it
special.
ugly.
Your Honor, when
He
she
said it
told
was
me that
like
she was
baby
going
diarrhea.
to paint, when she told me that she was going to paint, she said that she was going to paint the wall. She didn't tell me that she was going to paint a mural or some kind of exotic
You
masterpiece.
told me to do what I wanted.
I told her that she could paint the wall and then come back and it looks like a poop yellow. It's obviously not the greatest color out there. This was not something that I actually agreed with.
But Mr. Stewart, if you tell your partner that he or she can paint the basement, because that's where there's going to be fun, then you...
Why didn't you talk about it first? Why didn't you walk down there together, look at it together, look at some photos, and see whether that color would make both of you happy? Don't even bother talking about marriage. If you can't get the color, can't agree on the color, there's a lot more that you're going to find out as you get married. That color, what you're looking at there in terms of the color of the wall down the bottom, it's only a very minor issue in marriage.
You can't come back on Tuesday and say, I don't like the color that you painted if you did not get involved.
I just let her run with her creativity and my
Okay,
expectations.
so you like the whimsy until you don't like the whimsy, Mrs. Stewart? You understand what I'm saying? All the stuff that you fell in love with, Miss Langley still is. She was irresponsible. She was whimsical. Y'all didn't barely remembered each other, okay? So you fell in love with this whimsical unicorn dress wearing chick with the wild, fun, curly hair. You fell in love with that. That's exactly what I see in front of me. Now, mind you, I might want a more traditional, straight-haired chick that's sitting up in here in a blue basic dress.
Yes.
But if that's what you want, then this was never going to be this young lady. Miss Langley was always going to be the chick in the unicorn. That's it, always. She's not moving out of who she is. You might have to move out of that house, though, because y'all bought it together. And that's your decision, Mr. Stewart. Can you live with Miss Unicorn?
Your Honor, I can do my best to live with her, but there are some flaws that I would at least like to try and work on.
Tell her what you need from her.
I need for you to be more financially conscious. I need for you to actually take time to realize that this is a house that we're building together. I need for you
You
to...
are always nagging me, though, about fixing these things. And whenever I try, or whenever I'm like, no, that's the way it is, you don't listen. So what do you want me to do here?
I'm telling you what I want you to do, and I'm telling you what we need to try and address.
No, you
But
have an
don't want to
idealized
work
view
on
of what you want, but whenever I'm like, okay, well, what do you want me to fix, or how do you want me to fix it? You're like, I don't know. I can't do anything with an I don't know. Bottom line, I'm not getting married, and I'm not moving out.
Mr. Stewart, I hear you brought some paperwork.
That is correct, Your Honor. I have here a petition for the property. It's part of the ultimatum. It's either we're going to seal the deal and finally get married, or we're putting it back on the market.
And I go to the source. Joint property ownership when one party wants to sell. The law allows any co-owner to fracture the joint ownership via a partition action. Something tells me that's what you brought to court.
That is correct, Your Honor.
I'm not selling nothing, okay? Like, he can try this, I will fight him in court, and I know for a fact that it'll take him months to be able to figure this out. And in that time, you know, he's probably going to end up changing his mind anyway.
There's no changing my mind. The house was supposed to come with marriage, and if marriage is off the table, then she doesn't get part of the house.
Why you would want to marry anybody that just told you she married you for this house is a foreign subject to me.
Now, it is here that we want to apply Godman's Four Horsemen framework, or to help you and I understand what breaks relationship or what breaks communication down within a relationship. Now, the Four Horsemen theory, I will go and touch on each one of them and also apply a biblical principle in each. First one is criticism. There's nothing that breaks communication down really quickly and breaks a relationship down over time, or if not right away, than criticizing your loved one, criticizing your partner or your spouse. Now, Mrs. Stewart labeled Mrs. Langley as irresponsible and inconsiderate. This was from the very beginning of the court case, and this is very public. And I think this is why she's on a defensive, because of the labels that he has put on, and simply because Miss Langley is not meeting his expectation. The biblical principle that we can apply with criticism, and that is this: say, do not let any unwholesome talk, especially unwholesome talk towards those that you love, towards your siblings, towards your good friends, towards your spouse. Don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Criticism often focuses on the character flaws rather than specific behaviors, violating the principle of speaking to edify rather than to tear down. Remember, you want a healthy relationship, then get rid of criticism. Instead of labeling Mr. Stewart, good focus on addressing specific concern constructively, using words to encourage change rather than to provoke defensiveness. Because once Mrs. Langley is on a defensiveness, then it's hard to compromise. It's hard to be able to talk together and communicate together, and it is hard, very difficult to move forward. This is why I think the major breakdown of this relationship is. Now, number two, the second horse is defensiveness. Now, Mrs. Langley deflects responsibility for sure by focusing on her contribution to the household. Now, Proverbs, horse number three is contempt. Contentment. This is the behavior of Mrs. Langley's remark about Mr. Stewart being boring, undermines mutual respect. It was really a disrespectful. It got the judge really upset, really. And I think the people behind listening within the court case. Now, Proverbs 18 talks about the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it would eat its fruit. She's going to eat the fruit of being kicked out of the house, and I'm sure she's going to lose a lot because her name is not on the list of the deed of the house. Now, the application here is that both partners need to replace contemptuous language with affirmation of the other's worth and dignity as created in the image of God. I know Mr. Stewart was trying to do that, but where the relationship is at now, Miss Langley just doesn't want to hear it anymore. The final horseman is stonewalling. Now, stonewalling is both partners here, both Mr. Stewart and Mrs. Langley, both partners resist collaborative problem solving. Just basically either my way or no way at all. There's no sense of compromising or collaborating. There's no sense of looking at this relationship as this is something to do with us living together, moving together, and having a healthy relationship. No, this is about me and my way and what makes me feel good and what makes me feel happy. And because I'm not getting my way, I'm not willing to collaborate. Now, Matthew 5:9 says, "Blessed are those that are the peacemaker, for they will be called children of God." In every relationship, there has to be a peacemaker. There has to be the mature one, the mature partner, the mature individual that says, hey, this is not going anywhere. Let's sit down and rethink. Let's talk. Let's approach this issue in another way. Maybe we need to have a third party in here. And maybe we don't need to make it as public as what these two have done. But maybe we need to sit down and have a third perspective. Maybe we need to pray together. Maybe we need to listen to what God is saying to us together. Maybe we need to look at the Word and allow the Word to teach us about our hearts and how we should approach each other. So instead of shutting down, both partners should embrace active listening and seeking resolution and reflecting God's character and call and principles of peacemaker within their relationship. This is a great theory. You got to watch out for those horsemen. They're deadly. They're there to break down. They eat at the relationship until it's completely broken. And you should avoid all of this by looking at your partner as somebody that you love and looking at God as someone that would walk you through and how to help in your relationship.
Sir, do you want me to serve those papers on her? It doesn't matter to me one way or the other, because you're going to fight this lady to get her out of your house. And your house, because it's both of your house, you spent too much time worrying about trying to set up a traditional relationship without assessing whether or not the partner you were picking was the right partner for you. And you, Miss Langley, you worked out your fantasy. You got the house that you wanted, that you now no longer have to be a renter and just hang out with your friends. You used him as much as he used you. You probably both do belong together, because I don't see relationship here. I see controlling and I see manipulation.
Now, we can't just leave this couple without offering them some relational help, especially in the area of communication. Now, this is where the theory comes in of relational dialectics theory. This theory explains the tension between opposing desires in a relationship, such as autonomy versus connection or predictability versus spontaneity. Now, Mr. Stewart desires stability and traditional approach to a relationship, while Ms. Langley pretty much seeks fun and non-conventionality, total opposite. We're going to analyze how these tension manifest in their disagreement and propose solution, like setting relational priorities through open dialogue. Number one, clarify expectations. You should use explicit conversation about values. Be explicit about values and roles and long-term goals. It should have conversation, open dialogue, without judgment, without criticism, but just talk about those desires that you have within a relationship, in terms of values and roles and long-term goals. And really, you should, for this couple, we should suggest for them to go to a premarital counseling or guided discussions with a mediator to help them talk through the issues that they're going through. So that's number one, clarify expectations. Two, shift to collaborative framing within the way you communicate. Now, frame the house. This is what they should do. They should frame the house as a share investment and opportunity for teamwork rather than a point of contention. This is something that they should do together. This is something that, as a team, can bring the best out of them. Of course, it will test the relationship, but it would test the relationship in a way that enable them to see what they need to iron out. So they need to shift from getting their way or getting my way to collaborating and framing that conversation along. So number three, active listening. They need to be active listening, encouraging them to listen without interrupting or dismissing each other's feelings, using tools like I statement. Example, I feel unheard when. So some of these tools can be used to avoid conflict, to avoid allowing the four horsemen to come in and disrupt and destroy the communication within the relationship. Number four, conflict resolution technique. I think they need to be aware of conflict, some tools to help them to avoid conflict. One of that is proposed structured conflict resolution, such as focusing on one issue at a time and avoiding blame. If you can just do that in your own relationship, where you take an issue one at a time and then avoid blaming, rather than blaming, you should avoid that, but to bring a heart of wanting to bring solution into that conflict that you're going through. Finally, number five, focus on emotional validation. And focusing on emotional validation means highlight the importance of acknowledging positive traits in each other, as shown when Mr. Stewart shared his affection for Mrs. Langley. Though her response was not positive, as he was on a defensive foot, but that's what he did. He shared how much he valued her, the value of what she brings onto the relationship, and you should focus on that. You should focus on the value that each of you bring into a relationship. We've been married for 24 years, going on our 25th, and often we remind each other. Very often we remind each other of how when we first met, what we enjoyed and loved about each other, the values that we bring into our relationship, the strength that we bring into our relationship, and then our weaknesses, we often laugh about it. But we know that we can help each other out in those weaknesses. And so those are the four encouragement that I would bring to this relationship. Of course, there's prayer, as well as scripture that can really help this relationship focus and rather focus on something greater than themselves rather than on always wanting to meet their individual need. Nothing wrong with that. But in terms of building a relationship, often it is about focusing on the relationship and the needs of the relationship rather than on your own needs. Your own needs will be met along the way.
You want me to serve the papers?
You can serve the papers, Your Honor.
Will you retrieve the papers for me?
Sure.
It'll take months, though. You're not going to get what you want out of this.
Got nothing but time.
Wow.
Well, they are filled out, petition for partition.
I invested my life savings in this house. Like, seriously?
He invested his feelings in this relationship. And the fact that all you're doing is talking about the loss of a house when I'm about to serve a document that says your relationship is over says a lot more to me.
Yes.
You may be controlling, but you're manipulative. Please serve the papers.
Sure.
Very good, Judge.
I'm not selling.
You've been served.
Okay.
You don't have to sell. He can sell. Mr. Stewart, I'm disappointed in the two of you. You all took 2 years hiatus in between your first and your second date. Probably should have taken a little bit longer. We're done here. That's my verdict.
Let's wait for them as they leave the
I'm not
court.
selling this place.
I'm selling the place.
Well, you're gonna have to fight me in court, and I will find a way to appeal.
Like I said, I got nothing but time. This is my house.
Bring it on. You're always so impatient with everything that I do.
I'm
You'll change your mind
impatient.
by the end of it.
I will not change my mind. This is my house. This is my future. This is what I'm
It's
getting.
my future too, and I'm gonna make sure that we don't sell.
This couple would end up living together and staying in that house. Now, their feelings might be hot right now, but I bet you they're going to go home. There's going to be some growing up that they have to do, but I can imagine they're going to be living together. To conclude this case, well, this case illustrates the pitfalls of misalignment, number one, expectations, and ineffective communication in relationship. Yeah, I encourage you to reflect on your own relationship. What are areas that are misaligning? And we're not talking about romantic relationship here or engagement relationship or marriage, any type of relationship that you have, siblings, colleagues, and friends and so forth. Are there misaligned expectations? Number one. And their ineffective communication in your relationship. Reflect on those. Reflect and take an account of how you behave in a relationship. Look up the 4 horses again, and don't allow any of those 4 horses to get in the way, to bring destruction and to disrupt your relationship. God bless you. Like this video, share this video, subscribe, send this video out to those that you feel might benefit from it. Thank you, and God bless.